10 years had passed since the humans left. The Great Council Chamber, once the heart of galactic civilization, was nearly empty. Of the 200 species that had once sent representatives, fewer than 30 remained. The others had retreated to their homeworlds, struggling to survive in a galaxy that no longer worked. Councilor Rethus was dead. He had lived long enough to see everything fall apart, then passed away quietly in his sleep. Some said he died of shame. Others said his heart simply gave up. Either way, his death changed nothing. The damage was already done. The new council leader was a Kethrani named Vara. She was young for a politician, with bright green feathers and sharp, intelligent eyes. Unlike Rethus, she had never mocked humans. She had been a child when they left, too young to understand what was happening. Now she understood everything. She stood at the center of the empty chamber, looking at rows of vacant seats. Each seat represented a species that had given up, a world that had gone silent, a civilization that was slowly dying. How did we let this happen? She asked. Her advisor, an old Telari named Sorel, stood beside her. His fur had turned white with age, and his eyes were tired. We believed we were superior, he said simply. We thought we did not need anyone else. We were wrong. Vara walked slowly through the chamber, touching the empty seats as she passed. My grandmother told me stories about humans. She said they were strange creatures. They lived such short lives, but they worked so hard. They helped anyone who asked, even species that treated them badly. That was their nature, Sorel agreed. They could not help but help. It was built into them somehow. And we punished them for it. Vara's voice was bitter. We took their kindness and called it weakness. We took their hard work and called it duty. We never thanked them, never respected them, never even saw them as real people. She reached the seat that had been reserved for humans. It had never been filled. For 300 years, the council had refused to give humans official representation. The seat had been kept empty as a symbol, a reminder that humans would never be equals. Now it was a symbol of something else entirely. Vara sat down in the human seat. It felt strange, like wearing clothes that did not fit. She was not human. She had no right to be there. But someone had to remember them. Someone had to finally give them the place they deserved. Send one more message, she ordered. Not to demand anything. Not to beg. Just to say what should have been said long ago. Sorel nodded and activated the communication system. It barely worked anymore. Most of the relays had failed, but enough remained to send one final signal into the void. Vara spoke slowly, choosing her words with care. To the human species, wherever you are. This is Councilor Vara of the Galactic Council. I am speaking to you not as a leader, but as a person who was wrong. We hurt you. For 300 years, we hurt you in ways small and large. We called you names. We excluded you from our communities. We took everything you offered and gave nothing in return. We told ourselves you were primitive. We told ourselves you did not matter. We were lying to ourselves because the truth was too hard to accept. The truth was that you scared us. You lived such short lives, but you accomplished so much. You faced death every day, and instead of giving up, you built things. You created beauty. You helped strangers. Your short lives burned so bright that our long lives seemed dim in comparison. We could not admit that creatures we considered inferior were actually better than us, so we pushed you away. We made you feel small. We tried to convince ourselves that we did not need you. Now you are gone, and we finally see the truth. You were never primitive. You were never weak. You were the heart of this galaxy. Your kindness held us together. Your work kept us alive. Your hope inspired us to be better than we were, and we threw it all away. I do not ask you to come back. I do not deserve to ask that. None of us do. But I want you to know that we finally understand. we finally see what you were. What you are. You are wonderful. You are beautiful. You are everything we should have celebrated instead of feared. Wherever you are, I hope you have found the peace you deserve. I hope you have built a home where you are loved and respected. I hope your children grow up knowing they are special, not because anyone else says so, but because it is simply true. We will remember you. For as long as any of us survive, we will tell stories about the humans. The short-lived species that held the galaxy together. The primitives who were wiser than all of us thought you left silently. We will mourn you loudly. That is the least we can do. Goodbye. And thank you for everything. The message flew into space, traveling at the speed of light toward the edge of the galaxy. It passed dead relay stations and empty colonies. It crossed through regions of space that had once been busy with trade ships and now held only silence. And far, far away, on a planet called New Bizon, a young boy named Kim Jun heard it. He was 12 years old, the grandson of Park Yoonji. He had been born on this new world and had never seen the old galaxy. To him, Earth was just a story his grandmother told. The council was just a name in history books. But when he heard the message, something stirred in his heart. He found his grandmother working in her garden. She was old now, with white hair and wrinkled hands, but her eyes were still sharp. "Halmoni," he said, "someone is calling us." From the old place, Yoonji listened to the message. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. "Is it true?" June asked. "Were humans really that important?" His grandmother smiled through her tears. "We were never important to them, June, but we were important to each other. And that is what mattered. That is what still matters. Should we answer them?" Angie thought about it for a long moment. She thought about her grandmother, who had died without dignity. She thought about generations of humans who had suffered under alien contempt. She thought about all the pain that could never be undone. Then she thought about the future, about her grandson who had never known hatred, about the world they were building together where everyone was valued. "Maybe someday," she finally said, "when we are ready, when they are ready, but not today." She took her grandson's hand and led him back into the garden. There was work to do, seeds to plant, a future to build. Behind them, the message from the council faded into silence. But somewhere deep in space, between the old galaxy and the new, the words continued to travel, a monument to regret, a reminder of what was lost. The humans had departed silently. And the council, at last, had learned to lament everything. The council sent its first message to the humans exactly 1 year after they left. It was not an apology. It was not even polite. Councilor Rethus himself wrote it, and his arrogance showed in every word. To the human species, the message began. "The Galactic Council requires your immediate return. Your departure has caused disruptions that must be corrected. You will report to Council Station within 30 cycles to resume your duties. Failure to comply will be noted in official records." The message was sent through the damaged communication network. It bounced from relay to relay, growing weaker with each jump. By the time it reached the edge of known space, it was barely a whisper. No response came. Rethus waited impatiently. He was not used to being ignored. In his mind, humans were still the same primitive creatures they had always been. Surely they would come running back when summoned by the mighty council. But the days passed, and the silence continued. The second message was sent 2 months later. It was slightly less demanding. To the human species, the council acknowledges that there may have been misunderstandings in the past. Your technical expertise is valued. Favorable terms can be discussed upon your return. Again, no response. The third message came after the Kethrani death toll reached 1 million. To any human who receives this message, please, we need your help. Our people are dying. Our worlds are failing. We will give you anything you want. Just come back. This message was different from the others. It was sent by ordinary citizens, not the council. Mothers who had lost children, farmers who had lost crops, workers who had lost jobs. They broadcast their pleas into the darkness, hoping someone would hear, and far across the galaxy, someone did. Park Yoonji was 32 years old. She worked as a communications technician on the colony world of New Bizin, one of the first planets the human fleet had settled. Her job was to monitor signals from space, looking for any threats or opportunities. She found the messages late one night, buried in a stream of cosmic noise. At first, she thought they were errors, ghosts in the system. But as she cleaned up the signals, the words became clear. Please come back. We are sorry. Please. Eunji sat alone in her small office, reading message after message. Pleas from species that had mocked humans for centuries. Apologies from governments that had banned humans from their worlds. Desperate cries from individuals who had suddenly realized how much they had lost. She should have felt satisfaction. She should have felt vindicated. The galaxy was finally admitting that humans mattered. They were finally begging for the help they had always taken for granted. But Yoonji did not feel satisfied. She felt sad. She remembered her grandmother, Halmoni, who had died just before the departure. The old woman had spent her whole life on a Telari trading station, working as a cleaner. Every day, the Telari had walked past her without seeing her. They never learned her name. They never thanked her for her work. When she got sick, they did not offer medicine or comfort. They simply replaced her with another human and forgot she existed. Yoonji remembered visiting her grandmother in those final days. The old woman had cried, but not from pain. She cried because after 60 years of service, not a single Telari had come to say goodbye. They do not see us, Halmoni had whispered. They never will. Now Yoonji held messages from those same Telari, begging for human help. She wondered if any of them remembered the old woman who had cleaned their floors. She wondered if they had ever known her name. She doubted it. Eung forwarded the messages to the colonial government, but did not recommend a response. She simply noted them in her log and returned to her other work. The government read the messages carefully. They called a meeting of all human leaders across the new colonies. The discussion lasted for days. Some wanted to help. They argued that humans should be better than the species who had hurt them. Showing mercy would prove that humans were truly good. Others disagreed. They pointed out that the council had never apologized. Not really. The official messages still treated humans as servants, expected to obey orders. Only the ordinary citizens had shown genuine remorse. Why should we save them? Asked one leader, a man named Choi Minho. They spent 300 years telling us we were worthless. Now that they need us, suddenly we matter? That is not respect. That is desperation. But innocent people are dying, another leader replied. Children who never did anything wrong. Families who never had power over how humans were treated. And what about our children? Minho shot back. Our families? We spent 3 centuries being treated like dirt. Our grandparents died without dignity. Our parents grew up believing they were less than others. How many human children cried themselves to sleep because aliens at school called them primitive? The room fell silent. Everyone had those memories. Everyone carried those scars. In the end, no decision was made. The leaders agreed to wait and watch. They would not reach out to the council, but they would not close the door completely. If the galaxy truly changed, truly learned, then perhaps the conversation could begin again. But no one really believed that would happen. Back in council space, the situation grew worse every day. More colonies failed. More trade routes closed. More people died from diseases that human doctors had once cured easily. Counselor, Rethus finally understood the truth he had denied for so long. Humans had not been primitives. They had been the glue holding everything together. Their small acts of kindness, their quiet work, their patient help, these things had kept the galaxy running, and he had driven them away in his private chambers. The old counselor sat alone with his thoughts. He remembered every insult he had spoken, every human he had dismissed, every request for equality he had denied. He had thought he was protecting the galaxy from inferior beings. Now he realized he had destroyed it. What have I done? He whispered to the empty room. No one answered. There was no one left to answer. The humans were gone, and they were not coming back. On New Bizen, Park Yoonji walked along the beach near her home. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air smelled of salt and flowers. It was beautiful here, peaceful. Her communicator buzzed. Another message from the galaxy. Another plea for help. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she deleted it and continued walking. Her grandmother had deserved better. All humans had deserved better. The galaxy had made its choice long ago. Now, everyone had to live with the consequences. The stars came out one by one as darkness fell. Somewhere among them, the old galaxy was dying. But here, on this new world, life was just beginning. Yoonji smiled and headed home. The plague came without warning. On the Kethrani homeworld of Kethra Prime, it started in a small village near the Southern Ocean. A child woke up with purple spots on her skin. By evening, she could not breathe. By morning, she was dead. Within a week, the village was empty. Within a month, the disease had spread to 3 continents. The Kethrani called it the Purple Death, and they had no idea how to stop it. High Physician Morath worked in the central hospital of Kethra Prime. He was old for a Kethrani, with gray feathers and tired eyes. He had seen many diseases in his long life. But this one was different. This one was familiar. "I know this plague," he whispered as he studied the samples. "I have seen it before." His assistant, a young physician named Tella, looked up with hope. "You know the cure?" No. Morath's voice was heavy with regret. Humans knew the cure. They developed it 60 years ago, when this same disease appeared on the outer colonies. They shared the medicine freely. They saved thousands of lives. Tella felt her heart sink. "Do we have the formula?" "We never asked for it. We took their medicine and used it. We never thought to learn how they made it." He paused, shame filling his voice. "We thought we would never need to know. We thought humans would always be there to give us more." The Kethrani government sent urgent messages to every medical center in the galaxy. They searched databases and archives. They contacted scientists of 100 species. No one had the human formula. No one had bothered to record it. The Purple Death continued to spread. Hospitals overflowed. Funeral fires burned day and night. The Kethrani people, who had once banned humans from their world, now prayed for help that would never come. On the council station, the news arrived like a storm. Every day brought new reports of disaster. The Varathi colonies were failing. Telari trade had collapsed. Now the Kethrani were dying by the thousands, and that was not the worst of it. The Galactic Communication Network, the system that connected all worlds, began to break down. Messages were lost. Signals became confused. Entire sectors went dark for hours at a time. Councilor Rethus called an emergency meeting. The Great Chamber, which normally held representatives from 200 species, was half empty. Many delegates could not attend because their communication systems had failed. "What is happening?" Rethus demanded. "Why is everything falling apart?" A technical expert, a small creature with many eyes called Trix, stepped forward nervously. "Counselor, the network was built 3,000 years ago. It is very old. For the past 2 centuries, human programmers have been maintaining the core code. They patched problems, fixed errors, kept the system running. And now? Now the patches are failing. New errors appear faster than we can fix them. The human code was complex. We do not fully understand it. Rethus slammed his fist on the table. This is impossible. Humans were primitives. How could they have been so important? Trix flinched but continued. They were not primitives, counselor. They were different. They thought in ways we did not expect. They found solutions we would never have imagined. And they worked on problems no one else wanted to solve. The chamber fell silent. For the first time, the truth was becoming clear. Humans had not been useless. They had been essential. They had quietly held the galaxy together, asking for nothing in return except respect. And the galaxy had given them only contempt on a distant world called Renner 5. An old Telari farmer named Marsh sat in his empty field. His crops had died weeks ago. The irrigation system, designed and maintained by human engineers, had stopped working. Without water, nothing would grow. His wife, Sarah, stood beside him. "What will we do?" "I do not know," he admitted. "The food shipments have stopped. The trade routes are closed. We are alone." Sarah remembered the human family who had lived in the next valley. The Kims, a kind couple with 2 children. They had helped Marsh fix his machines many times. They had shared meals together on cold nights. When the humans left, Sarah had not said goodbye. She had been too proud, too ashamed. The Telari had treated humans badly, and she had been part of it. She had laughed at human jokes about their short lives. She had refused to invite them to community gatherings. Now she would give anything to see them again. To apologize. To ask for help, but they were gone. All of them. 15 million humans, flying toward a future without the galaxy that had rejected them. The silence spread across the stars. Worlds that had buzzed with activity fell quiet. Trade stopped. Communication failed. Species that had never spoken to each other directly now found they could not speak at all. In the great libraries of the Council, scholars searched desperately for human knowledge. They found almost nothing. Humans had been excluded from official records. Their contributions had been ignored, dismissed, erased. The galaxy had worked hard to pretend humans did not matter. Now that pretending was killing them. Physician Mora sent one final message before the communication network failed completely. It was addressed to any human who might still be listening. "We were wrong," the message said. "We treated you as less than ourselves. We mocked your short lives and your strange emotions. We took your help and gave nothing back. Now we are dying, and we have no one to blame but ourselves. If any human hears this, please know that we are sorry. Please know that we finally understand. You were never primitive. You were never weak. You were the best of us, and we were too blind to see it." The message flew into the darkness of space. It traveled for millions of miles, spreading thinner and thinner until it was just a whisper among the stars. No human heard it. The fleet was too far away, moving toward a new home in an unexplored region of space. They had left the galaxy behind, and they were not looking back. Captain Han Do-yoon stood on his bridge, watching the endless void ahead. The fleet had been traveling for many cycles now. Soon they would reach their destination, a cluster of habitable worlds far from Council space. "Any news from home?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Communications Officer Bae-Soman shook her head. "Nothing, Captain. The galactic network seems to be failing. We are picking up fragments of messages, but nothing clear." Da-hyun felt a strange sadness. Not for the galaxy, for the idea of what could have been. If the aliens had been kind, if they had treated humans as equals, none of this would be happening. Humans would still be there, helping, building, healing. But the aliens had made their choice, and now they were living with the results. "Focus on the fleet," Doyun ordered. "Our people are all that matters now." He turned away from the screens and walked to the window. Somewhere behind them, the galaxy was falling into chaos. But ahead, there was only possibility, only hope. The humans had left silently, and now the silence was spreading everywhere they had once been. 3 cycles passed after the humans left. In galactic time, that was not very long. Most species live for hundreds of years, so 3 cycles felt like a single breath. Life continued as normal. The council held its meetings. Trade ships flew between worlds. Diplomats argued about borders and taxes. Nobody talked about the humans. They were already forgotten, like a small stone thrown into a big ocean. The ripples had faded. The water was calm again. Then the first problem appeared. On the Vorathi mining colony of Ketho 7, the atmospheric processors began to fail. These were giant machines that cleaned the air and made it safe to breathe. Without them, the thin atmosphere of the mining world would kill everyone within days. "Chief," Engineer Borax stared at the broken machine with 4 of his 6 eyes. He was a Vorathi, tall and covered in hard blue scales. His people were known for their strength and their pride. They did not ask for help, ever. "What is wrong with it?" he demanded. His assistant, a younger Vorathi named Kel, looked confused. "I do not know, Chief. The central processor has failed. But the design is strange. I have never seen anything like it." Borax looked closer. The machine was old, very old. But inside it were newer parts. Someone had modified it, improved it, kept it running long past its expected life. The work was clever and careful. It was also completely unfamiliar to him. "Who built these modifications?" he asked. Kel checked the records. His scales turned pale when he found the answer. "Humans, Chief. Human engineers. They modified all 12 atmospheric processors on this colony. They did it 40 years ago." Borax felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Get me the repair instructions." "There are none." The humans kept the knowledge in their own systems. When they left, they took it with them. For the first time in his life, Borax felt afraid. Not of an enemy, not of a battle, but of a simple truth he had never considered. His people had depended on humans, and they had not even known it. The colony sent an emergency message to the Vorathi homeworld. Engineers were sent immediately. But when they arrived, they could not understand the human modifications. The technology was not more advanced than Vorathi science. It was just different, creative in ways they could not follow. Within 2 weeks, the atmospheric processors failed completely. The colony had to be evacuated. 3,000 Vorathi lost their homes and their jobs. The mines, rich with valuable minerals, were abandoned. It was the first crack. But it was not the last. Far across the galaxy, the Talari Trade Federation faced its own disaster. The Talari were a proud species of merchants. They had controlled trade routes for thousands of years. Their ships were fast and their captains were skilled. But for the past century, most Talari ships had used navigation data created by humans. The route through the Nebula of Storms was especially important. It cut travel time in half and saved enormous amounts of fuel. Human navigators had mapped it carefully, marking every dangerous spot, every safe passage. When the humans left, they took their navigation data with them. Captain Theza was a Talari trader with silver fur and sharp golden eyes. She commanded the merchant ship Starweaver. A crew of 20 had made the Nebula run many times. They knew the route by heart. Or so they thought. "Something is wrong," her navigator said nervously. "The safe passage has shifted. The stars are not where the charts say they should be." Thesa checked the readings herself. Nebulas were not static. They moved and changed over time. The human navigators had updated their maps constantly, tracking every small shift. But without them, the old maps were becoming dangerous. "We will go slowly," Thesa decided. "Reduce speed and watch carefully." It was not enough. The Star Weaver hit a pocket of unstable energy that had not existed on their maps. The ship's engines failed. They drifted for 6 days before rescue arrived. By then, half the crew had died from lack of oxygen. News of the disaster spread quickly. Other Telari captains became afraid to use the nebula route. Trade slowed down. Prices went up. Worlds that depended on Telari shipments began to suffer shortages. On the Council Station, Councilor Rethus received reports about these problems. He read them with growing annoyance. The Vorathi were asking for emergency funds. The Telari were demanding new navigation surveys. Everyone wanted something. Why is this happening now? He asked his advisors. A young Kethrani diplomat named Senna spoke carefully. "Counselor, these systems were maintained by humans. When they left, they took their expertise with them." Rethus waved a hand dismissively. "Nonsense. Humans were primitive. They could not have been responsible for critical infrastructure." "With respect, Counselor, the evidence suggests otherwise. Human engineers, doctors, and technicians worked throughout the galaxy. They filled roles that other species consider beneath them. Then, we will simply fill those roles ourselves." Senna hesitated. "We have tried, Counselor. The problem is that no one recorded what the humans did. Their work was considered unimportant. There are no training records, no documentation. The knowledge left with them." Rethus felt his confidence shake, just a little. He pushed the feeling away. "This is temporary. Minor inconveniences. The galaxy managed before humans arrived. We will manage after they leave." But deep down, a small voice whispered a different truth. The galaxy had not managed before humans. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 300 years. In that short time, they had quietly made themselves essential. Not through force, not through power, through simple, steady, helpful work. Now the work was stopping. On the Vorathi homeworld, engineers worked day and night to understand human technology. On Telari stations, navigators tried to map the nebula of storms from scratch. In hospitals across a dozen worlds, doctors struggled with medicines they did not know how to make. The cracks were spreading. Slowly, but spreading. And somewhere far beyond the known galaxy, 15 million humans flew toward their new home. They did not know about the problems they had left behind. They did not think about the chaos that was coming. They only thought about the future. A future where they could live in peace, far from a galaxy that had never wanted them. Captain Han Do-yun stood on his bridge and watched the stars pass by. The fleet had been traveling for 3 cycles now. They were already farther from the Council than any human had ever gone. "Any messages from the galaxy?" he asked. His communications officer, a young woman named Bei Soman, checked her screens. "Nothing, Captain." Complete silence. He nodded. That was expected. The Council had not cared when humans left. Why would they call now? What Do-yun did not know was that the Council was not silent by choice. They simply had not yet realized how much they needed the people they had driven away. That realization was coming. And when it arrived, it would be too late. Captain Han Do-yun stood alone on the bridge of the starship Eternal Dawn. The ship was large, built to carry 10,000 humans to a new home far away from the known galaxy. Through the wide window, he could see Earth one last time. The blue planet looked small now, like a marble floating in black water. He did not feel sad. He felt tired. After 300 years of trying to be part of the Galactic Council, humanity had finally given up. Not with anger, not with war, just with silence. Behind him, the door opened. Ambassador Yoon Jisoo walked in slowly. She was an old woman now, with white hair and deep lines on her face. She had spent 40 years talking to alien species, trying to make them see humans as equals. She had failed. "The last ships have left Earth orbit," she said quietly. 200 vessels. 15 million people. That is everyone. Dahan nodded. "And the message?" "I sent it to the council an hour ago. Simple words. We wish you well, nothing more." He almost smiled. After all the insults, after all the pain, humans were still polite. That was their nature. Even when leaving forever, they could not be cruel. Jisoo stood beside him and looked at Earth. "Do you think they will care?" "No," Dahyun said honestly. "They will not even notice we are gone. Not at first." She knew he was right. The Galactic Council had never cared about humans. To them, humanity was a mistake of evolution. A species that was too emotional, too weak, too primitive. The aliens had better technology, longer lives, and stronger bodies. Humans were nothing special in their eyes. For 3 centuries, humans had tried to prove themselves. They worked harder than any other species. They took the jobs nobody wanted. They fixed things that were broken. They healed the sick on distant worlds. They mapped dangerous space routes. They shared their food, their music, their stories. And in return, the galaxy gave them nothing but mockery. Do-hyun remembered his grandfather's stories. The old man had been a young engineer when humans first made contact with the galaxy. There had been so much hope then. Humanity thought they would find friends among the stars. Instead, they found cold indifference. The Varathi called humans short-lived insects. The Talari refused to eat at the same table with them. The Kethrani made laws that banned humans from their homeworld. And the Council itself? They allowed humans to exist in the galaxy, but never gave them a seat at the table. Never gave them a voice. "I remember my first council meeting," Jisoo said softly. "I was so young, so full of hope. I thought if I just explained things well enough, they would understand. They would see that humans had value. What happened?" Councillor Rethus laughed at me. He said humans were like children playing with toys they did not understand. He said, "We should be grateful the council allowed us to breathe their air." Dahyun's hands tightened into fists. He had heard many such stories. Every human had them. Small humiliations. Casual cruelty. The constant message that humans were less than others. But humans never fought back with violence. That was not their way. Instead, they worked. They proved themselves through action. When the Varathi mining colonies had equipment failures, human engineers fixed them. When plagues struck the outer worlds, human doctors traveled there to help. When the ancient communication network began to break down, human programmers patched the code. They did all this hoping that someday, the galaxy would see their worth. That day never came. The decision to leave had been made quietly, in small meetings across human worlds. There was no grand announcement, no dramatic gesture. People simply began to pack their things. Scientists gathered their research. Farmers collected their seeds. Teachers saved their books. Artists preserved their paintings. The galaxy did not notice. They never noticed what humans did. That was the whole problem. "The council will receive our farewell message," Jisoo said. "Some junior assistant will read it. They will file it away and forget about it by tomorrow." "Let them," Do-hyun said. "We are done trying to matter to them." He gave the order to the ship's computer. The Eternal Dawn began to move, joining the great fleet of human vessels. 200 ships, carrying everything humanity had built among the stars. Libraries, hospitals, schools, families, all of it leaving together, on the council station far across the galaxy. A young Telari clerk received the human message. He read it once, shrugged, and added it to the daily report. Humans announced departure from galactic space, he wrote. No response required. The report went to Counselor Rethus, who was eating his evening meal. He glanced at the line about humans and snorted. Good riddance, he muttered. Perhaps now we will have some peace from their endless noise. He did not know that the atmospheric processors on 12 Arathi colonies were running on human-made parts. He did not know that the safe passage through the nebula of storms existed only because human navigators had mapped it. He did not know that the medicine keeping the Kethrani plague away had been created by human doctors. He did not know because he had never bothered to ask. None of them had. Back on the Eternal Dawn, Captain Doheen watched the stars stretch into lines as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed. Earth disappeared behind them. The galaxy they had tried so hard to be part of was now just a memory. Ambassador Jisoo wiped a tear from her eye. Do you think we will ever come back? Doheen thought about it for a long moment. No, he finally said. Why would we? There is nothing for us there. There never was. The fleet moved in perfect formation, hundreds of ships flying together through the darkness. No one in the galaxy saw them go. No one said goodbye. No one asked them to stay. The humans left the same way. They had lived among the aliens, quietly, helpfully, without making a fuss, and the galaxy continued on, completely unaware that everything was about to change.